Good evening, everyone. Let's rise and salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. At this time, I would like to do consideration of our non-routine application. And at this time, I will call our Budget Committee Chairman, who's putting his glasses on, for item PW6.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move PW6. This is a request for an additional appropriation of $149,000.
And I have the item moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Finger.
Okay.
Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, PW6 is a request for additional $149,000 to complete pavement restoration on East Elm Street and Millbank Avenue. The original project called for approximately 5,600 linear feet of roadway to be restored, including pedestrian ramps, new curbing, and pavement markings. In the fiscal 11-12 budget, $500,000 was appropriated for this project, which was based on a preliminary estimate. It was assumed that pavement would be in place in the fall of 2011. That did not happen because of extensive reviews by the Connecticut Department of Transportation, revisions to the plan and specifications, and the prohibition to undertake such a project in this location during the holiday season. The project is now planned for the spring of 2012. The lowest bid came in at $525,602. A contingency of 10% is added, which is $53,000, and a construction inspection requirement placed upon the project by the state added an additional $66,000 to the total cost of the project, which is now $649,000. We expect the state to reimburse us by 80%, or $519,200. So the net cost of the town for this project should be $129,800. Let's see what else I can share. So what we're doing here is we're doing an additional appropriation to the Z fund for pavement restoration of $129,000. It comes out of capital, non-recurring.
And did your committee vote?
Our committee did vote. It was unanimous, 4-0.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 12-0.
Mr. Chairman, I'd now like to move PW7. This is a request for additional appropriation of $225,000 by the Department of Public Works.
I second that.
Item is moved and seconded by Mr. Finger.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, if I may. PW7 is a request, as I said, for $225,000 for overtime salaries. This request replaces funds expended on two storms, Irene and Alfred. The storms required cleanup services for a week, which included 2 Saturdays. The funds used to meet salaries were taken from the budget for overtime for leaf collection, emergency call-out, snow removal, etc. The cost of Irene was $150,000 and the cost of Alfred was $75,000 for a total of $225,000. This request will replenish funds used to meet salaries for these 2 storms. It is expected that FEMA will reimburse the town up to $170,000, so the net cost of this overtime should be approximately $55,000. This vote was also 4-0 by the Budget Committee.
Any other discussion?
Comments?
Ms. Harkington?
Yes, at the Budget Committee, we talked about the fact that this is fully replacing the full $225,000, and yet we're more than halfway through the fiscal year. So the Commissioner will come back with the budget period time and give us an update on how much they've actually spent, and she does also expect that they will be returning some of these funds to the general fund, and I think that comment should be made. Does not expect to spend the full amount, and we're hoping that we won't get much snow for the rest of the year.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 12-0.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I now wish to move PW8. PW8 is a request by the Department of Public Works to transfer $25,000 from the transfer account to overtime salaries and temporary salaries.
Second.
I have an item moved by Mr. Pellegrino, seconded by Mr. Finger. Discussion?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, this request is to replace funds expended also on these two major storms, Irene and Alfred, and to continue supporting the transition from dual stream to single stream recycling. Extended hours of operation at Holly Hill was required to accommodate other town departments, residents, and contractors who were cleaning up from the storms. The extended hours allowed the town vehicles to be weighed, which is important to being reimbursed by FEMA. Of the $25,000 being reimbursed, approximately $11,225 is expected to be reimbursed by FEMA. I meant to say $25,000 being transferred. The vote on this was 4-0.
Thank you. Any discussion? If I may, these three items were non-routine simply because of the nature of them. I did tell Department of Public Works that we didn't need them here tonight, but I think these all go before the RTM, so I think it's better for us to have them vetted, so we moved it that way. With that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 12-0. At this time, I would call the clerk for the routine applications of the evening.
BA1, Board of Assessment Appeals, for $8,000, release of conditions of temporary salaries. TA1, Assessor, for $32,000, release of conditions, temporary salaries. CC1, Conservation Commission, $3,500, additional appropriation for equipment. PZ2, Planning and Zoning, $7,720, additional appropriation for consulting.
The items have been moved. And do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Pellegrino. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Assessor, let me just turn my page over here, get caught up. Everybody has had in their package the assessor's report dated January 13th. We'll have a little discussion a little bit later in our agenda about the search for replacement assessor, and but I would accept the motion that the assessor's report be accepted as presented.
I'll move, also move.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Tarkington, second by Mr. Finger. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I will get to say hello to Bob Shipman when we get to that a little bit later, so I have it there. Okay, Controller's report. Mr. Minarski.
Good evening. Excuse me.
The wizard's going to let you have it for
We'll
that.
put this, okay. Starting out with the capital projects financing, we had a very successful bond and ban issuance, and I'd like to point out, first of all, that we were reaffirmed on our AAAs for the all three credit rating agencies. In the second paragraph, a question came up about what exactly does the blended effective rate of 1.52% mean on the $16.5 million general obligation bond issue. Technically, the $16.5 million is a 20-year bond issue. However, what we do is the piece that's the general fund, which amounts to $11.6 million of the $16.5, gets amortized over 5 years. And then the remaining 4.9, which is partially sewer improvement, and the other piece is the Nathaniel Witherall, gets amortized over 20 years. So that's what we mean by the blended rate, and the effective competitively bid rate of 152 was the winning bid. I'll entertain questions after two more points. Another question came up about replacing the risk manager. The job has currently been put out, posted, and we've received applications. I haven't seen them yet. The cutoff was on the 13th of January, and the question came up about the interview process. In order to answer that, what the interview process would be, let me skip to the internal audit section, which the job was also posted, And the application cutoffs were January 6th. We received 4 applications, of which one of them was a town employee. And the town employee came out number 1, and because the town employee came out number 1, we had no option to interview 2, 3, and 4. We had to offer it to the town employee. A number of people on the staff, including Roland Geiger and myself, met with the town employee, and she accepted the job. Her name is Pat Marinan. She's been doing internal audit work for the last 3 or 4 years. I don't think anybody's officially met her. I think she did show up at the orientation later in the afternoon. Now, having said that, the question still is, what's the interview process for the risk manager? There also is a very good candidate who you're familiar with through the internal audit meetings. If, in fact, that person comes out number 1 and I'm in the same situation, I would have to offer that to that person, and we wouldn't necessarily have to go through interviews. But to answer the question, if there is, in fact, an interview process, I am going to reach out to the chairman of the BET, and in particular Art Norton on the audit committee, and ask if you can participate in the process, because I value your judgment, being that you'll work closely with this person. So at this point, I don't know where this person falls as far as a candidate. I don't even know how many we've received so far. Having said that, you've got a copy of the controller's report. I'll answer any questions at this time.
Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like at this time to both publicly and personally compliment our controller on the application that we made to the 3 rating agencies, being Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch, relating both to the offering that were made last week, in which each one of the 3 rating agencies reaffirmed our AAA rating. But not only did they reaffirm our rating, but they also indicated, especially with Moody's and S&P and Fitch, that our condition is stable. That was the second report that we had received a few months earlier. Moody's, which had put all AAA communities in Fairfield County on watch as a result of a proposal made by the President of the United States back in August. Moody's reaffirmed our position at the same time. At that particular time, back in November, reaffirmed our stable rating. And I think that the controller should be complimented publicly for the effort that was accomplished in maintaining our AAA rating.
Mr. Pellegrino?
No, I'd like to further make a comment on this. It's a personal opinion. I thought some of the best work this board did last year was to put in place a fund balance and a debt policy. When I look at the reports put out by Standard & Poor's and Fitch, Standard & Poor's specifically says in their report, they revised our rating to strong from good due to the town's adoption of formal debt and reserve policies. I look at Fitch, they say the town's recent implementation of a debt and reserve policy augment its already sophisticated, prudent, and conservative financial management. If you look at what happened with the state of Connecticut, downgraded, and you look at what we've done, which was go from a watch list to a possible downgrade to reaffirming the AAA credit rating agency, I just think it speaks well to what this board has consistently done year after year after year, and that is have strong fiscal policies in place to protect our credit and maintain it at the highest rate possible, which leads to the lowest possible cost for the monies that we do borrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter, a question. When these rates that we had impact the current capital model, correct? Because with the lower rates of interest being paid on the anticipation notes and on the notes themselves, won't that actually be able to increase
Yes.
our commitments?
In the principal and interest line on the 15-year model, they'll come in lower as far as, yes, they'll impact the capital model.
So it'll increase what we can commit to because we have less
Yes.
servicing interest on the projects.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask the controller if he would tell us what rate of interest we received on the $40 million one-year notes.
It's noted in the controller's report, it was 13 basis points, the net interest cost.
Which is 13/100 of 1%.
Yes, it's 0.13. We had historically in the last 4 years, rounding off, going 4 years ago, we had 38 basis points. We went to 28 basis points. We went back up to around 38 basis points. And this year, we went down to 13 basis points. As a matter of fact, I got a phone call within an hour after the sale from the town of Fairfield, congratulating the town of Greenwich. And they were bragging to me 2 months ago about they got 19 basis points on $41 million about 4 or 5 months ago. So it's extremely low. I've never seen it this low.
Wow, it's amazing.
And can I just say thank you, and can I acknowledge 2 people? I didn't do the process by myself. Roland Geiger played a key role, and the first selectman played a very key role. He participates in the credit reviews, and he's done it for the last 4 years, and it's on behalf of the both of them, myself, thanks.
We have a light agenda tonight. I'll make a comment. I got called into Roland's office over a year ago, and Roland had his tape, and he's rolling his tape, and he said, we need a fund balance. We're not getting there. We need a fund balance. And it was then that we really decided that we really needed to work on that, and I do agree with you. Moving on, is there anything else in the controller's report?
Move to accept, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion to accept the controller's report.
Seconded.
Seconded by Mr. Raymer.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have the treasurer's report by Mr. Winiarski still standing up.
I move to accept that and reference the report that's included with the agenda for tonight's meeting, and the projected fund balance at year end is shown on that lower right-hand corner.
Moved by Mr. Norton, second by Mr. Pellegrino. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. BET, standing committee reports. So everyone's got the audit committee report. Any questions or comments on that?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make an additional report that was not included in my written report because I wasn't aware of until Friday afternoon, but the Board of Selectmen at its meeting last Thursday voted to add to the various contracts that the town issued, the whole homeless and indemnification clause to the contract, which had been recommended some months ago by the audit committee and the full BET.
Thank you. Any other additions or comments on the audit committee report? Okay. Investment, BET Investment Committee report. Any comments or questions on it? Moving on. Liaison, BET liaison reports. And if I'm looking correctly, we have a written revaluation team report. Any comments or questions? POCD, I had nothing on that. I know we have 5 members on that. I didn't have any reports on that. So I'm going to move past that. Special projects teams. Number 1, GHI MISA. I think we have a written report. Ms. Tarkington, if you would, could you give us the details on this report? Just, there's a little bit, this is an unusual report.
Well, I think I thought the good way to start out this term was to use the report that the MISA Building Committee presents to the RTM as a quarterly report. So this report was actually prepared by our own Bob Brady, sitting as a member of that committee, together with the chairman, Joe Ross, and obviously accepted by the full committee. But it lays out the past activities of the last quarter, the financial costs, and where the money has been spent, including on the money released for the contamination, and it has a schedule of the next steps over the next quarter. So again, it's a great summary report. There was no need to duplicate it with our own report within this board.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that assignment. We have the Standard Oil Building Committee report. We do not have a written report on that, but I'm going to call Mr. Norton for a report on that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm serving as the BET representative on that building committee. I was unable to complete a written report, but I do have a verbal report to complete. The board has met, the building committee has met twice this month on both. The first meeting was on January 10th, and the second meeting was on January 19th. The first meeting basically was to approve some expenditures and at the same time to reappoint the chair, which is Andrew Fox. The second meeting, which was held last Thursday, was basically to approve appropriations for both the architect, which is SLAM, and also revisions to the Turner contract as a result of the project to renew appropriation that the RTM approved at its December meeting. At the meeting last Thursday, Turner made some recommendations to us, but let me go back a little bit. This board has been very concerned with the issue of lessons learned, and we've had some lessons learned with building projects and building committees in the past. And as a result of our lessons learned, one of the conditions that we had added to the appropriation for Nathaniel Witherell was that we would have a construction manager as agent for the town. Now, Nathaniel Witherell is a 24/7 operation, 365 days a year, in which there will be continually patients in the facility. And Turner's proposal to us was, rather than having a construction manager as agent for the town, that we have a construction manager, that they act as a construction manager on a cost-plus basis, which really means that the contracts for all the subcontracts will be held by Turner as opposed to the town if they were acting as agent for the town. Subsequent to that, a conference call was conducted last Friday afternoon, attended by our chairman of the BET, town attorney Wayne Fox, outside counsel retained by the town attorney's office, and Mr. Robert O'Brien, who's a partner of the law firm of Gordon Muir and Foley and Hartford, chairman of the building committee, Andy Fox, and myself, in which it was strongly recommended by our outside counsel that we adopt the Turner recommendation, which is to have a construction manager on a cost-plus basis, which is be a modification of what the BET had recommended when it made the recommendation for the appropriation. A report for this will be submitted to the budget committee at its meeting in February to consider the recommendation coming from the building committee and the town attorney's office.
Thank you. Yeah, just to clarify this a little bit, the BET has a series of subject to releases on Nathaniel Witherell, so the budget committee can expect at your regular February cycle that they'll be coming before you. I would expect that you're going to have a conversation with Wayne Fox on his opinion on this, and it'll come before you. It's a question of if we can change the contract or if we would have to rebid it. So it'll go before the budget committee, and I'm sure the budget committee will bring it to us, and it's with some type of a decision.
We're going to have it on the agenda. I want to discuss Nathaniel Witherell, where they are today, what their thought is about next year's budget, what they're doing with raising money from third parties, friends,
Yep.
as well as where do we stand with the release of conditions regarding contractor at risk or not at risk.
Got it. Okay, old business. I think we forgot to add something to the agenda, so I will entertain a motion from Mr. Pellegrino.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like the first motion would be to put on the agenda the adoption of our policy and procedures reference book. I believe that's
For
correct.
approval.
Yes, for approval. So that requires, I believe, a 2/3 vote in order to put it on the agenda.
After you get a second.
After I get a second. Do I have a second?
You have a second.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion to put back on the agenda the approval of our policy and procedure manual. Motion by Mr. Pellegrino, second by Mr. Finger. It requires a 2/3 vote by this board to put it back on the agenda. Discussion on the motion to add.
If I may say, it's just simply an inadvertent oversight that we didn't catch this sooner. Mr. Finger was kind enough to point out to me that we had discussed this, and as part of the discussion, I believe at our organization meeting, we knew that this was going to be on the agenda for this meeting. It is actually part of our policy procedure to adopt it at the first full board meeting in January. So that's why I'm asking that people vote to put this back on the agenda.
Any other discussion? Okay, so all in favor of putting the adoption of the policy and procedure manual back on the agenda?
Aye.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 12-0.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I now would like to make a motion that we adopt the policy and procedure manual as written and as it has been distributed to the full board for some period of time now.
I second that.
Seconded, made by Mr. Pellegrino, seconded by Mr. Finger. Discussion.
I have nothing to say at this point.
It's funny, the two individuals that put all the work into it, they want to get it adopted. I am sorry for the oversight. I would say that our policy and procedure manual, going just from our orientation, it's a useful tool, and it's something that's, we do refer to from time to time. So I do thank you for catching that to both of you. Mr. Finger?
I just want to point out for the public that may be watching and listening that the manual the handbook has been distributed to all new BET members, so it's not like nobody's seen it before. It's been distributed, and they've had ample time to look at it. It's on the BET website as well.
Thank you. Okay. So approval of the policy and procedure manual. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There we go.
Okay.
Okay, new business. New assessor search committee report. Let me just see if I can open this, and then I'm going to call on two members. Between the time of election day and our January 5th meeting, our chairman was on the way out and our assessor was retired. So we were looking for some decisions, and it was my decision at that time that the two members on the BET that had worked with the assessor right through the last couple terms were Bill Finger and Leslie Tarkington. So I had asked them, can you please take charge of the replacement of the assessor process, interviews, and come back to us? And they did. So I don't want to speak for them because I'm sure they have a report, but they have made a lot of meetings, a lot of phone calls, and I really thank them for that. And with that, either one of you wants to make a report. I'm sure you both have some stuff to add.
Well, I just comment that the position had originally been posted in December for just a short period of time, and including the holiday season. And I think when we reviewed this at the beginning of the year, we decided it would be worthwhile to go out, repost for a reasonable amount of time, which is a period now ending near the end of February, and to make sure that this posting also is there on the website for both the Connecticut Assessors Organization as well as the International Organization, to make sure there's a broad group that would see this, and to do advertising in the Hartford paper and the Boston newspaper. So tentatively, we will set interviews around the middle of March, and we expect this to be a successful search. Again, this information was available in our written report.
Mr. Finger?
I would just add that we have a tentative date scheduled for our first round of interviews, which is March 14th. And so hopefully out of that process, we will have a new assessor within a short period thereafter.
Okay, so let me ask the next question. Currently, you're also in the works for a potential temporary?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct. We have been talking with Human Resources, the town administrator, the finance department, and the assessors department, and that process is underway. Our assistant assessor does have the responsibility of the assessor when the assessor is not available. So we have a department that has very experienced people in it, and that do excellent work. I also think it's a busy time. They'll be signing off on the grand list hopefully shortly, around February 1, and that's a major task for the department. And then to obviously support the Board of Assessment Appeals hearings, any help that they need, and to provide the real estate information materials. They'll also be doing that support work. So the department is well organized to handle this in the interim while the search is going on.
Thank you. Mr. Finger, anything?
I've done.
If I may, Mr. Shipman, thank you. Fantastic, thank you. For those of you who don't know, Bob's always at our BET meetings and always there, so this is sort of routine anyway at this point. Okay. Item 13, it says acceptance approval. The first item is BET regular meeting minutes for December 19th, 2011, acceptance. Actually, we can approve those. The members that were elected and serving at that meeting can vote for those minutes. So this would be interesting. So
Joe should move.
I'll accept a motion that the minutes for that date be moved.
No, Mr. Chairman, I will move the December 19th minutes be moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, unfortunately, when I was looking at them, I realized, and this is my error, that the exhibits in those minutes were not properly labeled. The first exhibit should say Exhibit A. The second one is actually currently labeled Exhibit C, and it should be Exhibit B, and the third one is Exhibit C. And so if those changes could be accepted by the full board, I think we could then accept those minutes.
Any member have any discussion? If not, I'll accept those changes by unanimous consent. Any other questions? Okay, so for the December 16th minute, December 19th minutes, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Well, most particularly would be the 7 members.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eight.
Right. All those that opposed? All those abstaining? It's easier to count the abstaining. There should be 4.
Yeah, actually, it's 8.
Eight.
That's correct, yeah.
So it should be 804.
Right.
Right. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'll now move the BET organizational meeting minutes from January 5th.
Seconded.
Moved by Mr. Pellegrino, seconded by Mr. Raymer. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those 12-0. And
I will
then,
now move the BET orientation meeting minutes from January 10th.
Seconded.
moved by Mr. Pellegrino, seconded by Mr. Raymer. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 12-0. Okay, chairman's report. I should start the chairman's report by saying if all the meetings were like this is not bad at all. I don't have as much to say about Mr. Walco as I thought I would. It's been a very busy month. Starting, with our swearing in on the 5th, the orientation, a lot of work went into that meeting. I hope everyone found that rewarding. I'd like to thank the 5 BET members who attended the Board of Education's Superintendent Search Committee. I thought that was time well spent for the board. I've been having weekly meetings with the First Selectman, Peter Tessie. Very helpful. I'd like to thank him very much, actually. The CIP process is rolling along. I believe they've had 3 complete meetings. We have another one this week. We do. The First Selectman is leading that. There's representation from the RTM, the BET, Finance Department, Board of Education, Planning. I mean, it's got quite a spectrum. They have some very serious challenges at hand. They're looking at our capital modeling, not just the current budget, but they're looking at what they need to do to set the stage for keeping the spending in line so we can stay not only just in our debt policy, but obviously they're starting to even look into the availability of how many projects they can do. So they're working on that. I believe they're in a rankings process. I believe the First Selectman will have his public airing Thursday night at 7 o'clock, Town Hall Meeting Room. I would encourage oh, it's in this room, I'm sorry. I would encourage all of us to kind of attend. That's where the public gets to say, hey, here's what we'd like to, do and get done in some of the projects. I attended our audit committee meeting, our HR committee meeting. Our HR committee had a new chair, and I congratulate Mark. He survived his first meeting, and I thank that. We had some special meetings with GEMS. GEMS is in a process right now of redirecting their capital plans for the future for a station and a corporate headquarters. I think we're going to be hearing more of that coming up, which leads me into the 30-day notice for King Street Firehouse. The BET obviously moved to the February meeting on location. I've seen some of the email traffic. We've seen some of the members. So you have 27 days to get your information going, and I think the King Street Firehouse, the staffing, that whole discussion will be on the Budget Committee agenda for February. They'll have sleeping bags that night. I attended the RTM District 12 meeting. We had a few phone calls and emails during the last month, and I think from a new chairman's point of view, I think what we've tried to do is set the stage for the budget process. I think we've tried to get everybody inclusive, up to speed with what's going on, and hopefully going forward. I have one new initiative I'm working on, and if I can tell a little story, it's about an iPad. Seems Peter Tessie got an iPad and working on trying to get rid of his paper load. I think he goes home with a bundle of paper like this, trying to read at night, and it would be easy to get it in electronic form. So with that, we're working, and I'm going to be asking a couple of our members on the board to lay out what we think as a finance board we would want from an oversight, from just the high-level look, and then see if we can direct the project to get completed. And I have a couple members in mind, and you'll see an email go out on that. I was going to ask Mr. Brady and Mr. Bedrosian to volunteer. Even if you don't want to, you're going to volunteer anyway. But so we have that coming because, again, it's just, we were all in town hall the other day picking up our packages, and they cost money to get delivered, and everybody was there getting them, and a couple people needed extra copies. It's just easier that way. So with that said, Mr. Norton, Vice Chairman report.
I don't have any specific report to say other than a week from tonight I'll be enjoying some painkillers while you enjoy whatever the weather here is in Greenwich.
I don't recall in your contract that you get vacation time, so you're here for a year. Ms. Kiernan?
No report.
Okay. So with that, I would entertain a motion for adjournment. Mr. Golder?
Move to be adjourned.
Second. Seconded by Mr. Brady. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Excellent.
Wow.